I'm rolling
Count 'em down, Dr. D.
audio in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Mr. Restaurant with Will Knox. I am he, Will Knox. In the studio today with Larry Lorenzo Nicola. I got to tell you, folks, there's nobody else that I know in the business of restaurants who is as hospitable and is conceptual as Larry Lorenzo Nicola. Larry, welcome. I'm going to refer to you as Larry, Lorenzo, or
Anything you like. It's all
Nick.
good.
There we go. Welcome to Mr.
Thank you.
Restaurant.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being on the show today. You
right.
really have quite a history of not just restaurant development, but you got a way with people, and you've got a way with food and marketing and business. And what I'd really like to do is explore your origins. Where were you born, and where did you really get this kind of knack for restaurant touring?
Well, I'm a Silver Lake guy. I was born in Silver Lake, and my father had a market there. My father and his twin brother, Nicola Twins Market. It was on the corner of Sunset and Fountain for 45 years. And not only was my father in the meat business and a market, but my grandmother, Nabiha, was kind of the host of the Lebanese community. She cooked all the bread for the church, and she was the big caterer, and she taught Shakespeare and Arabic. She was a pretty dynamic woman. And but I really was there was food all around me. We catered, we had parties all the time, but I learned really to cut meat and groceries and stuff in my dad's market. But I got this real passion, this real love to feed people from my grandmother. And when she washed my hands as a little child, she washed it with ivory soap. And if you could remember that feeling, it was like she gave me the love to feed people and the ability to understand food and through her hands. And I give her a lot of credit for that. Then, of course, learning from my dad, my uncles, and my mother, of course, and all the food. And we're Lebanese, 110% Lebanese, so we were always cooking. And I learned the style of our cooking pretty well, and so I've carried it through my life. And I've never had any Lebanese restaurant till just now, but I have that passion for my heritage.
So you're second generation. Your dad or your grandmother actually emigrated here to the States?
My grandparents came through Ellis Island. My parents are from North Dakota and West Virginia.
They went from Ellis Island to North Dakota. How did that come about?
I don't know. Somebody had a room up there. The immigrants come and they go where their relatives are, and
they go where their relatives are. Exactly. Yeah. So then they settled in LA, and then you get into this world of cutting meat in the marketplace and all the rest. Did you ever contemplate any other business than being around food and hospitality? I mean, how did hospitality get into your blood?
When I was a little kid, I had an idea for a restaurant called Larry's Octagon, and it had different foods in different corners, eight corners, 8 sides, and it had 8 different foods with the United Nations of seating in the middle. So I was always concerned with how people get fed, how you find good ingredients, how you touch food, and how you serve food. So I was always been a restaurant guy.
And did you go to traditional schooling and go to college, or just come out of high school and say I'm in the rough and tumble world?
Well, I always wanted to be in the restaurant business, but I never knew exactly where. But before I opened my first restaurant, I was in the wholesale produce business. So I was in every restaurant from Chasen's to Yesterday's to Old World. All those restaurants were my clients. So I was in all those restaurants. So I was learning about the restaurant business in the 70s and the late 70s, and then I started the wholesale produce business. Then I saw this building. I was at my dad's market on Sunset Boulevard, and somebody sent me a photo from a restaurant in Austria. And it was this 2-story building and with flowers in front. It was a beautiful restaurant. And I looked at this postcard, then I looked across the street, and there was the same building. but that building across the street was boarded up. So I went and asked them what they're doing with this building, and they said, no, we're leaving. I said, well, I want to rent it. So I rented it and raised the money and opened my first restaurant. And that was, I had 8 guys from the varsity football team from Marshall High, including Michael Rotendi, the famous architect from Morphosis, to help me open my first restaurant. So I was kind of blessed with having a real great design guy, and plus all the trades were all around me. My brother was the contractor, and we opened this restaurant, and I really didn't know too much about it, but I never really thought about it. People say, well, I can't do that. I go, well, don't think about it, just do it, and we did it. And it was a successful restaurant for about 13, 14 years.
So you got the inspiration for this particular building from another building in Austria that literally mimicked the building that you're in
It was the
as your
exact
first
same-
venture.
That exact same.
How
building.
cosmic was that?
Yeah, it was weird. Just it was kind of God saying, here you go, buddy.
And what was that first concept?
LA Nicola.
And
LA
what was
Nicola.
the concept of the food and the ambiance? I mean, how did this come to you?
Every restaurant I've had has been my original food. It was I have the building, and I think I have the ability to say this belongs here, and I can create it. You picked up a lot of things during when you're trying to develop this concept, but it was some traditional foods. There was chicken Kiev, and there was steak Diane of Brazil, and there was all these things. And I was learning about cooking at that time when we started this restaurant. So I would hire chefs, and really I would learn from the chefs. And I had so many good chefs that I brought in that I learned from them. And by the time, we got it really going, I was on my way. We went through, first it was kind of basic cuisine. Then it was Nouvelle cuisine. Then everybody hated that. So we went back to just kind of like our own original cuisine, and it worked really well. We had a great bar called the Martini Lounge, and that was where the martini thing started for me. The Martini
Well, we'll
Lounge.
get into the VOD box and the Martini Lounge in a little bit, but ostensibly, are you then saying you build the menu to the venue? You have this venue set up first, you find this location, you go, oh, I know what I can put in there.
Yeah. I think that's my thing, that I can take a look at a building and I go, this is what goes in this building.
And what are the challenges really when you're setting something like that up? Here you are. How old were you at the time? 23, 24, 25?
No, it's about 28, 29.
28. And you were not a chef. You were learning the intricacies of the kitchen. What you now think of yourself as a chef, right?
Yes.
So ostensibly, when you started out, though, you were getting all this knowledge just on the ground, just picking it up as you go. That took a lot of balls, excuse the expression.
Yeah. The first I hired a chef on my first restaurant. I hired a chef, and I was gonna be in the front because I'm pretty good out in front talking to people and schmoozing. And so
you could be Jewish.
We had a night where I said, okay, let's try some of the food we're gonna make. And he started cooking. I go, wow, man, I'm much better than you. Why don't you go out in front? I'll go in the back. And that's how I started in the back. So out of I knew I was much better than him, so I just said, let's switch, and I'll go out. I'll get in the back, and that's what I did.
Were there any real challenges in this first operation? Something that really kind of held you back, or you really had to overcome? I mean, raising money is obviously not an easy thing to do. How did you even get the money?
That's like putting needles in your eyes. Every time you do it, it's like, you hate to ask people, because sometimes most of them are your friends, so you don't want to ask them, but you get lucky. I was lucky when I it just happens, you just kind of keep going, and it just happens as long as you want it to happen, and you can back up your words. I think that it happens for you. So,
well, ostensibly, when you go into this location, you're now in a world that you're not too familiar with. You're also in a world of Los Angeles that is not too familiar with what you're all about. And certainly this cuisine is new into this world. So it's really kind of revolutionary what you're doing at that point in your young life, right?
yeah, I think it was, I was blessed with, kind of being fearless and, willing to take on the challenge and actually,
Fearless, fearless,
pretty good
fearless.
with people too,
Yeah.
so it was fun, and it was fun, man. It was a ball, man. We had those were some wild times in the 80s, I gotta say. So, but we had really a wonderful time.
Well, from there, that was what, a 10-year run there?
13 years.
LA Nicola, 13 years.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
Then we were approached by Mitsui Fudasan. They were opening in the San Juan Bank Plaza, and it was
Downtown LA?
Yeah, 53-story building, really gorgeous building. And so I decided I'm going to make the move. During that time, after that run, the riots and it was getting pretty tough. I don't know, it was it was depressed time right there. So I decided to sell the restaurant and go down to the San Juan Bank Plaza. I don't think it was, in retrospect, I don't think it was a great idea. It was, you have this ideas of, this wonderful restaurant, beautiful brand new restaurant in this beautiful high rise. Well, we did it, and architecturally, it was picked as one of the 5 American gems in American architecture.
And who did the architecture there?
That was Michael Rotundi. Roto at that time. And it was like, it had like these whale bones into the ceiling and these big stone rocks. And it was really out of this world and really an art piece to be sure. But when we opened that restaurant, the riots started and nobody came downtown.
So this is what, 89, 90?
This is 90.
92, 92,
Yeah,
93,
yeah.
Right?
And
so downtown was really a happening spot just before that time. That's
just before that. Then after that, nobody came downtown. So we stayed open for lunch and we kind of limped through it. Then I finally sold that. And somebody told me about a restaurant in Beverly Hills that was closed down, was called the Milk Bar. And so I went out to see it. It was boarded up. And I think bought it for $1,000 or something. And that's when Beverly Hills, that it was on Cannon Drive and it was kind of depressed. So I went in there and did all the demo myself. It was 2 big rooms, and did all the demo myself and rearranged the kitchen and opened it up, raised some money again for the 3rd time and opened that up, and it was there for 19 and a half years.
Well, I can tell you a forerunner. I had my office for years down on Cannon Drive, and there was mostly real estate offices. There was some retail. There was a lot of showbiz offices, that type of thing. But really, there was nothing on Cannon in the way of restaurants. It was mostly on Beverly Drive in Beverly Hills, or even on Rodeo Drive. And you were a forerunner to that. And now Cannon Drive, you can't touch. It's Restaurant Row, for Beverly Hills. And we're going to talk more about what happened, after you left. We'll be breaking in a little bit, but it's essentially, you seem to have a background that's multi-dimensional operationally, but also ethnically. What I've always been attracted to in your cuisine is that it spans. It's like Pangea. It's, I don't know even know the right term for it, but you're across the globe with a lot of your ideas and your cuisine, whether it's a Russian vodka or gravlax or ceviche from Mexico. You've had some big roots in Mexico. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I started consulting a little bit when I was asked to go to. First, I went to Arizona and did a resort. And these movie people owned this resort, and they were losing about $40,000 a month. It wasn't a huge resort, but that's a lot of money to be losing. So I went in there, and in 4 months, I was breaking even and created a whole new cuisine for them. And that's when I really kind of got out of the box and was, flew to destinations and go, okay, this is what we need here, and started doing it, and it worked. And I visited there about a month ago, and it's really nice. That was a 2-back golf resort. And then I got asked to go to
that was in Arizona.
Yeah. Then I got asked to go to Palmilla, which was a grand resort in Cabo San Lucas, world-class resort.
The one and only.
Well, yeah, now they call it the one and only, and that was owned by what's his name from Newport Beach, Don. Anyhow,
Don Newport Beach.
Don no no. Anyhow,
It'll come to you.
I redid the whole hotel, the food and beverage. I was the director of food and beverage operations and executive chef. And then Jack Nicholas came in to open the golf resorts, the golf course. So that was one of the first golf courses in Cabo. So I was in that whole time. And in those days, you couldn't even get wine into Mexico. So it was difficult. It was fun. It was outrageous. And it was, and I started a farm also. I started a farm about.
Wait a second. Did you have Nick's at the time? You're operating Nick's in Beverly Hills?
I had Nick's, yeah.
So you're really kind of stretching it a little bit. You're operating a restaurant and you're also consulting down in Cabo, but
yeah,
you're spending
commuting there back and
forth. That must have been very stressful because you've got family.
Yeah, but they came with me sometimes, and sometimes I'd go alone. But I was traveling. I was all over the place, and I was stayed down there for about a year and a half, and I surfed at that time, and I never even got in the water. I was working so hard. When you'd fly in and you're working, then you fly out. You just never had time to really enjoy it. But I ended up going back, and with the farm I started was really great. I was credited with starting the organic movement to upscale resorts in the Cabo area. I started a farm. And we serviced the restaurant, and then from that farm, they started serving all the hotels on the corridor there.
So you spent quite a bit of time there, and you're wanting to surf, but you're not getting up to Toto Santos or any of those places, right?
No, just
that's frustrating.
But it was really rewarding, and I just loved the area. And then I did Cadencia, a golf resort down there. Is another grand resort. Are you
a golfer?
Huh?
Are you a golfer yourself?
Oh, I love golf.
You do?
Golf. Yeah, you know that.
Is that your meditation?
That's my meditation.
Is that your form of meditation? What are you doing? What do you listen, the restaurant business is very stressful. So what do you do at the crack of dawn when you're really just kind of getting your, engine going? Do you meditate, or do you go out and play golf? I mean,
I meditate in the morning.
You do?
Every day I wake up, I get back in and meditate for, at least 15 minutes.
So that gets you started.
Yep. It's the best 15 minutes you spend in your day, really. You're doing absolutely nothing with yourself but enjoying yourself. So I think that's a pretty good thing.
Well, that's very inspirational. And that leads me into the question of inspiring people. That seems to be something that you really thrive on, and others really, get from you. And that's what keeps your team really cohesive. It seems to me that inspiration, do you have inspiration from others? Have you taken your inspiration from others? Is there one person? Is there one person that really stands out for you that's inspired you, not just as a restaurateur, but just in general? Is there any part, any?
Yeah, you inspire me.
Oh, come on, that's only when I'm lathering up. But
no, you're such a good person, and put out so much good information and support that's like really important, man.
Oh, you're sweet.
If you don't have that, you're alone. It's really nice. Thank you.
Well, you must have taken your inspiration maybe from your dad or whoever was first starting you out in the business. He
was my best friend.
Well, but you've got a real knack for hospitality. I think of you as Mr. Hospitality. Okay, I may be Mr. Restaurant right now, but you are definitely Mr. Hospitality. You're very warm, to anybody that comes into your restaurants, and you've got great ideas, and you exude, kind of come into my space. I'm welcoming you. Not every restaurateur does that, and some people work the room from my years, and they're very gruff, and they don't really pay a lot of attention. But you look people in the eye and you put your arm around them, and it's a really welcoming feeling. And I think people, like to go to your joints because of that. And I think of your places as joints, by the way. I don't feel that they're, fine dining, spots. Nick's Martini Lounge, which we're going to talk about after the break, is really, one of those places that you could go and, dress up and really have that nice, martini feel and, feel like you're Sinatra or Dorothy Lamour, and
you got
I
it.
guess we're dating ourselves, aren't we? But,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, I always liked that about that particular spot. I just think that one of the ingredients, that really is an intangible in the restaurant business is this congeniality, is this hospitality, is this ability to have a personality that comes through in your food, your decor, which leads me to a quick question before we go to break, because I'm Dr. D is telling me I got 30 seconds. Art plays a big part in your restaurants and has, is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're
And
doing a
what
book right now on my first restaurant on all the art and architecture and design we had in there.
you're doing a book.
Yeah, well, somebody's doing a book and they're doing a big piece on us. All the art and architecture we had in their first restaurant.
All right, hold that thought, because we're going to take a break and we're going to come back with Larry Nicola, with Mr. Restaurant. I'm Will Knox, and we'll be right back to talk about art and other things relating to Larry Lorenzo Nicola.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
We're back. We're back.
Hey.
We're back with Lorenzo Nicola,
Hey.
also known as Larry Nicola. Larry,
Hello.
thank you very much for being on Mr. Restaurant today. Where we left off, we were talking about art and how it relates to your restaurants. So go ahead, talk to me.
Well, our first restaurant we had, we opened, of course, we're a newbie, we're just doing this, and this one guy kept bugging me to hang his art because I had some posters on the wall. I said, well, okay, let's do an opening and let's bring your art down. Let's see what happens. We got hundreds of people down there. Hundreds of people showed up. It was a really cool scene.
And this is Silver Lake, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is
The
pretty
artist was
grungy.
from Echo Park, and it was just kind of cutting edge stuff. And we sold stuff, and we were busy. We got hundreds of people that we wouldn't ordinarily had in the restaurant. So it turns out we started doing it about every month. And then it started to catch on. And then we opened the bar, the Martini Lounge, and we started doing it. There was a guy, Billy Poveda, my dear friend, and he worked with us. Then he opened the Martini. He helped us open the Martini Lounge, or he hosted that Wednesday in the Martini Lounge. So I think martinis were $2, and it was like this provocative art on the walls. And sometimes we had fashion shows right on the bar, and it was outrageous, and it brought thousands of people into the bar and the restaurant. And we were known as sort of this gallery, and it was art while you eat. And we were in several publications, and actually we were on the cover of Wet magazine, and all these publications about all the art we had. And we had some of the great Latin artists, because Silver Lake, Los Feliz, the area, there was a lot of these in Echo Parks, a lot of these great Latin artists, and we showed everybody from Carlos Alvarez to Frank Ramiro. I mean, we had some superstars there, and it was in this cool place that everybody felt it was home. So,
well, the people in a restaurant are art. Oftentimes people go out to restaurants to look at people and what they're wearing and how they're acting. But oftentimes, the food is also a work of art at a particular type of restaurant. But having it on the walls and surrounding you kind of like brings it all together. And I think there are very few people. I can remember Peter Morton used to have just tremendous art on his walls at Morton's. And, I believe that, there are others that, pride themselves in putting either their own personal artwork or others, into play, because it just adds another dimension. So you're to be applauded for that. What happened now? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, getting back to the restaurant also, people say, well, what's the restaurant business about? And I said, well, you start talking, then you go, well, really it's about art and arithmetic. art is the restaurant, the beautiful restaurant, the beautiful food, the beautiful decor, all these things. But it also has to do with arithmetic. If you have art and you don't have arithmetic, you're probably going to last a week. If you have art and arithmetic, it enables you, you're able to sustain. How do people say, how do you stay in business this long? So, well, you have to have some semblance of organization where you could pay the bills to keep these walls covered with these beautiful art and serve this beautiful food and have these beautiful people walking around with all this food. So it's really about art and arithmetic. I think.
Did people want to buy the art? Did you ever sell the art? Or was it ever on consignment
Oh
from
yeah,
artists?
we sold a ton of it, and I have a bunch of it.
Well, the most famous restaurant with art is in St. Paul de Vence, where you'd get a Picasso, Cezanne, or any of those of the period who couldn't afford to eat, and they would work for their food.
Yeah, that's right.
And it would hang, and now they're masterpieces, needless to say. So that was kind of the idea that you had too. You would work with some starving artists, they put their work up, and they'd sell.
And I got a little collection.
And you've got your own collection.
Yeah.
And you're an artist yourself, is that correct?
I'm painting like crazy right now. Yeah.
Is it a release for you?
Oh my God. It's just, I can't wait. I was going to go to bed about 10 o'clock last night. I'm really tired too. I said, geez, let me paint for a while. I started painting, and a couple hours later, I keep thinking about the painting. It's like, wow. It's
as much as you like a martini, you like to paint now.
I love paint. That's my new release.
But you love martinis, which led me to the question of the VOD box. Why? Okay, you created Nick's Martini Lounge. Was it called Nick's Martini Lounge, or was it called Nick's of Beverly Hills?
It was Nick's Restaurant and Martini Lounge, and then it kind of morphed into Nick's Beverly Hills, but with the Martini Lounge. And then, but we were always known for our vodka. So here's how it happened. Somebody was asking me, because we had all these vodkas. They said, "Is there anybody that can take you on a tour of vodka?" And I said, "Well, not really." So with my son Luke, we started traveling to Poland and Sweden and France and all these places where all these beautiful distilleries are, and started filming it. And from Chopin, they're flying us out there in helicopters, and at these castles in Poland, and on fox hunts up near Russia, and all these.
I'm in. Let's do it.
We're having the best time of our lives, and learning more about vodka. So when I came back, I created this room in the back of the bar called the VOD box. It was a 9x12 freezer. And I had these faux furs made, and you put on these furs and walked in and drank some of the best vodkas in the world. And it really saved the restaurant. It really took it to another level. And then I was doing all these interviews and stuff, and they said something. They asked me something. Well, what are you? And I said, well, I'm the vodka tour. And so I took on the title of vodka tour, and I am the only vodka tour that I know of. And I'm not doing as much in vodka anymore, but I surely love a great martini.
Well, I'm telling anyone out there in the universe that's listening to this, if you've got a space, and I could stand behind this, if you've got a space that's as big as a walk-in freezer, refrigerator walk-in freezer, put in the VOD box, bring in Larry, Lorenzo, Nicola, and have him set up your VOD box, because you will add to your restaurant incrementally some big time revenue, because that was a ball to go in there. It was a glass wall that you could look out and you could see everybody in the restaurant, and you're doing shots. And it was at that time, I guess, what, $25 for 4 shots or something like that. Today it'd probably be 2,000. Just kidding. But ostensibly, it was a great experience to walk in there and pretend like you were in these Russian sables and put on the Cossacks hats and, just literally have a great time in a very small space. And it was a wonderful concept that I think still to this day's got really great legs.
It was a lot of fun.
in addition to your legs.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And really,
Oh,
you know,
there.
drinking vodka at 28 degrees is that's what I figured it was the best temperature to taste the vodka. And that's when vodka tastes the best. They say to drink it warm. No, you drink it at 28 degrees or take it out of the freezer, pour a nice glass of vodka.
Do you ever have vodka with ice? I mean, is that a good thing, or just to keep the, should you just
If you
keep
want
the,
to put club soda or
cold?
something in it,
no, but you shouldn't add ice to it, right?
no,
Just have it cold.
just have it cold.
All right, well, listen, we're going to take a break again and go into what happened after the VOD box and the Martini Lounge closed, because you made a dramatic move up north to Ojai. So we'd like to learn a little bit about that. We'll be right back with Larry, Lorenzo, Nicola, and I'm Will Knox, and this is Mr. Restaurant. We'll be right back. Thanks.
Stand by. All right, here we go. And 3, 2, 1.
Okay, here we are back with
Okay.
Larry, Lorenzo, Nicola, a very well-respected restaurateur out of LA who now bides his time in Ojai and LA. So tell us about that. Why'd you come to Ojai? What happened there?
Well, it's a beautiful town, and I came up here and went to farmers market and visited my friend up here, and he was doing bread, a very nice bread, and it's very sought after sourdough. And you know, I had this concept that I've had for about 25, 30 years, and it was originally I called it picnic. And it was something really that I've been trying to really put together, but I haven't done it. It's a picnic serving rotisserie chicken, all these beautiful vegetables, nice breads and salads and things like that, but very innovative and very kind of hip in a nice way, but very comfortable. And so when I was up here, I had sold Nick's Martini Lounge. And so I was up here and decided let's put these two concepts together, the bread and then the picnic concept. We couldn't use the name, so we used Ojai Roti, and we put it together. And my partner does the bread. He does the bread off-site now, and I run the restaurant.
And his name is
Claude Mann.
Claude Mann.
Claude Mann. And you know, really
Very
good,
well-respected baker.
well-respected baker and good guy. And so we have this Lebanese French picnic that we call Ojai Roti.
So now you're back to your roots. You're right back to where you started with your grandmother.
It's a Lebanese French picnic.
Got it.
And you know, I moved from Beverly Hills and threw away my suit. Now I'm the Lebanese French. I'm the Lebanese Ralph Lauren up here. I wear my jeans and t-shirt and have a good time. So people say, do you like it up in Ojai? So, well, it's 2 minutes to golf, 2 minutes to get a beer, and 2 minutes to go on a hike. So where do you want to live, really? It's, you know how wonderful it is. And so we opened this and we're doing really well. It's doing well and well received. And I always wanted to, you know, kind of see it in action. So we're seeing it in action, and the food works really good. We have a wine program, we have a sommelier, and we have wines within 70 miles of Ojai.
Oh, you don't go out of that neighborhood to get any other wines? You stay
No, we don't go to
very
Napa or
local.
anything like that.
Very
Except we have a few wines from France and Lebanon. And the rest is within 70 miles, as are the beers. And the only soft drinks we sell are a watermelon, like a watermelon water with the rose water and fresh lemonade. And we have a non-alcoholic kombucha. We have a Flying Embers kombucha hard cider and a hard cider, and the rest are wines and beers, but no Cokes, nothing like that. So it's real. We get to know the farmers up here. We deal with a lot of farmers, a lot of organic produce, and God, it's like what better place can you have with an appellation that just the produce just rolls down the hill to the restaurant. I mean, it's like pretty amazing.
So in your trajectory, you go from growing up in Silver Lake and then getting your kind of legs, so to speak, in the restaurant business in this kind of gritty urban environment. You go downtown, then you move uptown to Beverly Hills. Now you're in the country, so to speak, because you're in Ojai. That's a real move, man. You went about 180 degrees from where you started.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any challenges to operating in a small town like this?
I gotta say I think that we've been fortunate. I think this town is really nice. I think people accepted the food really well. I've been in a small town like this. You have to show people that you're going to work hard, and at my age, I'm still working like
You're a young man.
Yeah, like a young man.
You're a wiser man.
Yeah, not every day do I feel that way, but I definitely.
Are you shooting your age yet?
No.
Okay,
No.
we'll get you back to 70s.
Yeah. But I love it up here. I still like the crazy shit, like stuff, like, my consulting.
We can say stuff on the air.
My consulting career was fun. I would go into the jungle in Costa Rica and do a resort there, and I would go to Belize on the beach there and create a resort. And now I'm up up here creating this up here, and it's really, really well received. And I just love the experience of going into a place, learning new people, making new friends. Yeah, I've made a zillion friends up in Ojai. I mean, if you walk around LA, you don't meet people like you meet in Ojai.
Well, it is a community. It's a
I
very
can walk down the street
intimate.
and get something welded. I can do, get something fixed, or do a lot of things up here, and that you can't ordinarily. So I like the adventure. I like it. We still have a house in LA. My beautiful wife Kelly. We go back and forth, and it's fun, but we're up here. We can take a drive up 33 and just lose our minds. So,
well, do you think that this concept is scalable? What about this concept really drives people to it? And are you only open for dinner, I think? Is that right? Or are you open for lunch as well?
And we're open for lunch. We're gonna expand the day parts pretty soon, but it's expandable. Yes, it is. It's a concept that can be duplicated into a few locations, and it's best to keep them close, within maybe it's 100 miles, so you can support the other ones. But yes, it is, and that's my plans to put a few of these together, and I'm working on that now, and I hope to see success in that soon.
So in building something that's scalable, and we're going to go take one more break, I'm told, in about a minute, but ostensibly when you're building mechanically in your mind and then on paper and then actually in operation, this first concept, are you looking to really try to build something that can be rolled out? Did you think that this was something you wanted to roll out, or was it a one-off, concept like you'd done other restaurant concepts? Was this something that in your mind you'd always felt, you could have many of these Ojai rotis? And
yes,
you weren't thinking of it as Ojai roti at the time. You were just thinking as a French Lebanese picnic idea, right?
But what was called
rotisserie,
called a picnic. But yes, it's always been something that I wanted to roll out, always.
Because your experience is always, a fine dining restaurant,
one of a kind, and I do like architecture too. So I always like to be in interesting buildings, and I think we're going to keep it at that way. The way that we can get into some interesting buildings that are creative, like the one in Ojai is a super.
Well, yes, that location is an old 1920s gas station, right?
Yeah.
So there's an outbuilding, where the cars were serviced, and an in building where there was some servicing going on, and it's a huge patio, and I think people love the idea that it's a community that you're serving, and it's not offensive food, and it seems to be extremely well received because the price points are well received.
Yeah.
It's not super expensive. You don't need to make a reservation. You can drop in. But we're going to talk a little bit more about all this scalability and the business aspect of it after we return from our final break with Larry, Lorenzo, Nicola. Thank you very much. And we'll be right back on Mr. Restaurant with Will Knox.
Here we go, final segment.
Final segment's going to be how long?
About 6 to 8 minutes.
6 to 8 minutes, Larry. We'll vamp a little bit. Okay. Talk about anything that's on your mind, but we're going to continue to speak about, roti and maybe financing and, investors and what keeps you up at night, stuff like that.
Okay.
You all right with that?
Yes, sir.
Anything else that's pressing on your mind you'd like to talk about?
Oh, no.
And
This-
politically,
This
we're
is
gonna-
very nice.
We're going to stay out of politics. Okay. 3, 2, give me the high sign.
I give you the high sign. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. I'm Will Knox, also known as Mr. Restaurant, and I'm with Mr. Congeniality, Mr. Hospitality, and a Mr. Restaurant unto himself, Larry Nicola, also known as Lorenzo, to those who are getting to know him really well and personally up in Ojai, where he spends a lot of his time, but not all of his time. But he has developed a concept called Ojai Roti. And tell us a little bit more, Larry. When we were talking at the break about the scalability when you're building this brand, how did you first come up with the name? I mean, you were calling it Picnic, and then how did you pivot out of that? Because Nick is a play on your name, Nicola,
Yeah.
and I get the picnic idea. But why didn't you keep the picnic idea?
Well, there was another concept up here that had a name Le Picnic. So it was just too
Also in
simple.
LA, there's a restaurant called Picnic.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. And so we decided we better just find a new name. So Claude and I sat down and we came up with Ojai Roti. And it works really good because I think that Ojai is as a destination it's good food. It's peaceful. It has a lot of connotation of something that special, so it works really well for us. It's a good come from. And I think that I think the work we put in, and I think that it's been no easy feat. The first we opened for 8 or 9 months, then there was COVID for 2 years, so it was quite a challenge. We didn't know what was going to happen. Well, nobody knew what was going to happen, but luckily we moved all of our seats outside. We had very little seats inside, so we moved everything outside and just opened for to go in the beginning, and then started serving outside, spacing everybody out. And it was kind of set up for success. I don't know. We got lucky.
Well, the patio is a big landmark,
Yeah.
for you and big calling cards. So in future restaurants, is that integral? I can remember when I was doing a lot of the early Hard Rock Cafe site selection and that real estate. I was very fortunate to work with Peter Morton and get my own mentoring from him. But ostensibly, what we did with the Hard Rocks, we didn't replicate and have them look like cookie cutter yesterday, type restaurants or, Fuddruckers or, TGA. He never wanted to do TGI Fridays, but he always wanted elements to be in there, but no two restaurants would ever look alike. In your particular case, are you saying that there's a certain backbone that'll always be there, like the rotisserie chicken? You're able to see the rotisserie chicken.
The elements, there's 5 or 6 elements that'll always be there.
Such as?
Such as the out picnic tables, such as the rotisserie, such as I'd like to see DG and all of it's
DG.
it's kind of like ranchy,
what is DG?
Decomposed granite.
Decomposed granite, for those of you who are not in the country, like Lorenzo Nicola.
And we have a kind of a ranch fence. Bougainvillea is really important for our color. We have
so if you went to Poland, okay,
olive trees.
If you were out in the middle of nowhere, let's just say in Poland, someone said, I'd love to do an Ojai Roti in Poland. That's pretty far-fetched, I get it. Or even Kansas City, you would say Bougainvillea. Even in the dead of winter, somehow you'd make the feeling of Ojai be evoked in the architecture and the ambiance.
I think let's put it this way: ranchy. Okay,
ranchy.
You might have to use another color, a new plant. but the ranchy, like the tile on the roofs, the metal we use, the fans, the fence, the DG, the colors we use a flint and like a light beige, but the picnic tables, and if once we get to maybe the next one, there's some specific art that I want to use that we haven't used yet, and that will be ready for the next one.
And where will the next one be? What's your intention?
I'd like to see something in the east side of Los Angeles.
Going right back to your roots, right? You're going right back where it all started.
Yeah,
that's full circle, man.
I think so.
Well, in finding that location, which is not easy, you need a patio, particularly, right?
Yes, we need a patio.
So for anybody listening out there, if you've got a restaurant site, you got a patio, call Mr. Restaurant or call Larry Nicola at Ojai Roti and somehow let him know that you've got something available, because he's looking, and you're on a path to really build a lot of these deals, right?
Well, we'll build a few. Yes,
okay, so when you have the idea of building one and then going to number two, those are internally financed, or are those with outside financing? What's the best case scenario for you?
We hope to finance the next couple with the same group so we can keep that growing, because the idea is to have one supporting the next. If you have too many different companies, you can't share the resources. So if you have one company that's bigger, you can share the resources. That way also you can have a commissary kitchen that supports the others. If they're all independent companies, it's really hard to do that. It's really tricky. So I think it's better. I think the next step would be good to put the company together to really stay together for a few.
So you would like to build the next location with a big enough kitchen, because the one in Ojai is a small, very tiny 1,000 square foot building where your kitchen is, you can't do a lot.
It's made us it's pushed us to work harder and be successful.
So you're successful in spite of the space.
Yeah, it's 1,100 square feet. I mean, inside.
So in the next location, if you can build a restaurant with that kitchen as the hub, and the other restaurants will be the spoke, then ultimately you could say, I might do 3 more in this location where the kitchen could basically serve 2 or 3 other restaurants. The kitchen could act as that heart and soul.
Yes.
And then from there, you'll bring in another round of financing, hopefully, and grow this thing into a much more scalable and known brand, right?
Yes.
And
that's my vision.
That's your goal.
Yeah.
And that was your vision all along for 25 years.
Yes.
Well, I got to tell you, Larry, it's really been a pleasure being with you today and hearing about all of this, and particularly your life and the trajectory. And I'm really, really touched that you spent the time with me. I have one real final question to ask you, and that is, other than the inspirations we talked about and getting revved up in the morning, what advice would you give for a young person who's starting today, that has the desire to go into the restaurant business as a concept guy or person, an operator? They want to own, they want to operate, and they want to grow it. What advice would you give that person?
I would say, get some advice, because a lot of people have the wrong idea to open a restaurant. They just want to open it because of a romantic idea. You have to really be willing to put your back into it, and you have to have some background. You have to hire somebody that's got some background, a financial planner or a lawyer or somebody that's been in the business that kind of helps you. Because a lot of people, if you had 30 different people come up to me and ask this, they want to open a restaurant, and I could talk to them for 10 minutes. I could tell you in 2 minutes whether they should be opening that restaurant or not, because they have to be careful, because money is hard to come by, and people don't want to lose their money.
Oftentimes you get one shot, and 90% of the restaurants fail. So, coming out of the box, you better have your group together, your money together, your whole attitude together. And I would think your best advice from what I'm hearing is get good advice.
Get good advice. If you have to hire somebody, do it, but don't sail alone if you don't know what you're doing.
Larry, thank you for this time. It was just really a pleasure, and I'm just really touched that you gave it to me and Mr. Restaurant, because your time is very valuable and you're a very valuable asset to the restaurant business.
My
So
brother, I appreciate you very much.
Thank
know
you.
that, and I love you very much, and thank you. It's a pleasure being on with you.
well, let's share the love.
All right, brother.
All right. Thank you very much.
Peace
Over and
out.
everybody. This is
All
Will
right.
Knox, Mr. Restaurant. We'll see you next time on the Back Nine and in the Grotto.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Clear.
Larry,
Yeah.
good man.
All right, man. Thank
Really.
you. Thank you.
How is sound quality, Dr. D?
Excellent. Excellent.
Jeremiah, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Without a mic.
And now I can hear you.
Hey, Larry, just want to say.
Hey,
hi.
man, how you doing?
Yeah, do we want to get a radio drop from Larry? We
We
do.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeremiah, was there anything you wanted to kind of convey to
Yeah, let's
Larry?
get a radio.
We're going to get a radio drop, whatever that means, Larry.
Okay.
All right, what we're going to do is have you introduce yourself. And then you're going to speak about, the restaurant or what have you. And and then tag it out with, and you're listening to Mr. Restaurant.
So you want me to do this tag?
No,
or
no.
Larry?
Yeah, Larry.
Oh, Larry's going to do it.
Larry's going to do the tag.
So he say that again for Larry.
You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to talk about, promote whatever it is that you want in reference to the restaurants and what have you, and the work you're doing, and then tag it out with, and you're listening to Mr. Restaurant.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So I will count you down. All right? In 3, 2, 1.
Hello, this is Larry Lorenzo Nicola, and I'm up here in Ojai at Ojai Roti at my new restaurant. It's a Lebanese French picnic, and it's a really comfortable place with beautiful hand-selected wine by our sommelier, and we have rotisserie chicken. It's a Lebanese style with all the beautiful sides from the beautiful area of Ojai. We'd love to have you up here. It's an all outdoor picnic area, and our goal is now to grow this concept. And I've really had fun today on this show, and you've been listening to Mr. Restaurant. Thank you.
Very good. We got it.
Is that
too long, or do you want to?
Well,
No, it's fine. It's fine.
When we do
Your- we start dropping in all the chefs, but yeah, it should be shorter. It should be.
But you can edit that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Cut out the.
Lorenzo, that was fabulous.
That was fabulous.
I owe you a martini
Okay.
or a
All right.
doobie or something. I don't know.
All right.
I'm going to see you soon. We're in Santa Barbara right now, as you know.
Love you all.
I'll be back in town next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
right.
Jeremiah, Dr. D, you good?
We're good.
Over now, Lair.
Thank you all. Cheers.
I want to do a teaser into the first 3 minutes of my show.
Okay.
With you. Is that
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So what I'll just say, welcome to my show, my hour. I'm here with Mr. Restaurant Will Knox. He's had some fascinating interviews. Who have you talked to? And then why don't we, since we're not going to promote the Bobs right now, I had that on the list, but just say I just spoke with Lorenzo. Check it out.
You want me to say upcoming?
Yeah, right. I think it'd be good to let my listeners keep knowing that you're part of this family, right? And then so they tune in and look for your stuff, and then you can get off. I've got a guest. You get the hell out.
I'm happy to be out.
Your guest, as a matter of fact,
Is that okay?
you're,
Smoothly? You enjoy it?
Hey, we did better with the intro of the show after coming out of commercial. Because yesterday I didn't, and that was one thing
You
I
wanted to
didn't
say,
Well,
Mr. Restaurant.
you're back listening to Mr. Restaurant. I'm Will Knox, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
kind of integrating a little bit about my background as well. So, getting used to it, Dr.
Yeah.
D.
I mean,
Very
you're
good, very
doing
good.
great for 5, 6 shows in now.
That's it.
That's it. I'm gonna change my background. So what maybe what I'll.
Hi, I'm Will Knox. You've been listening to Mr. Restaurant?
No, I'm gonna introduce my.
Yeah.
Oh well, bring it on.
Got it.
Bring the show on, and then I'm sitting here with Will Knox. Will, just has started a new series, Mr. Restaurant. Maybe I'll say, tell us about the series.
Okay.
Just do a real quick one, your one-liner.
You don't want 3 minutes out of
No.
me.
Yeah, no, maybe like three minutes to kind of tease
Oh,
what you're doing.
all right.
I'll ask you the questions.
Oh, you're gonna work with me.
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
ask you the
fine.
questions,
Back
and
and
then,
forth.
but let's just both of us know. Let's keep it short because I got to
Yes.
get to my guests. But it's a good way to
Happy
set
to
you
do it.
up and get them.
Let's do it. So my mic is off, I see on the
Right
Zoom.
now.
That's no problem.
Oh, you mean on Zoom?
Well, I'm seeing the mic off.
Well, it needs to stay off
I'm unmiked.
for the moment.
I'm muted, rather.
I guess. So horrible. Going down.
It does
Fine.
work better when we're in the studio.
And you get a professional
I believe
produced
that.
show.
I love the background.
I wish I was an audio
The green screen
geek
looks
like
great.
Richard. Yeah, it's yours is nice and clean. I like yours. Okay. So is my guest that Richard?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. We better get started. Is this mic gonna be on for me?
Mhm.
Okay. So you tell me when. And then when you get up, Mike, your cue for getting up and going or whatever will be. So check it out, Mr. Restaurant. Blah blah blah. Okay, and then
Then I leave.
we're done. Ready when you are, Dr. D. You can let.
Guest in.
You got Stevie Gaspar on next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know who he is?
No,
The Hollywood All Stars.
don't know. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Good. Let me get my photo up here for you.
Oh, I like it.
How's everyone doing?
Good, good. Hey, nice studio.
See you guys.
Oh, Richard's using that.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for having me.
Please. Hey, Steve, Jeremiah here.
Jeremiah, finally, right?